The secret has come to light. The real, guilty of the tragedy that separated James and caused the death of Deep, has finally been revealed. But now the great unknown is: James and Deep will choose the road to vengeance or the of forgiveness. Hello everyone, family. Welcome back to the channel. Today we continue with the most loved story we have told, that of James and Deep. A journey marked by love, the betrayal, and decisions that will change your lives forever. For weeks, maybe months, silence, pain and nights no sleep became routine. But as always, the truth has a way to open up step, even in the densest shadows. And so it was the person who moved the threads from the rope, that manipulated each step, every fall, every wound, has finally been exposed. James sits in front of the window, with a cup of cold coffee between his hands. His look, once full of rage, now reflects a more complex wind. Doubts, fear, memory, because to forgive is to let go of the past, let the scars close, no hard feelings. But taking revenge is to do justice for all that he lost, for all that Deep will no longer be able to recover. Mientras tanto, Deep has changed. After months of physical and emotional struggle, is no longer the same woman, has been reborn, stronger, more serene. Y sin embargo, in the face of the traitor, does not scream, does not break down in tears, is silent because there are pains so deep that not even 1,000 screams can be described as. Because there are wounds that not even revenge can heal. And so there they are, James and Deep, face to face with its past, in the middle of the crossroads. Forgive or take revenge, love or destroy. Which path will they take? The soft morning light began to leak out of the office windows, dyeing the wooden floor golden, and gently caressing every corner of the highest office of the building. In the midst of that peaceful silence, James remained seated all alone. In front of him, displayed on the table, were the plans of a house. It was not just any house. Was a project I had been designing in secret for months, with absolute dedication, almost obsessive. Every angle, every trait, every detail had been thought out with only one person in mind: TU DIEP. That place was not only a structure, it was a dream. His way of telling him, "You deserve a home. I want you to have peace. This is for you." While his pencil slowly on paper, the world seemed to stop. The only sound that accompanied it was the slight murmur from the wind against the glass, until a soft knock interrupted the moment. James looked ahead, said in a calm voice. The door opened and there was Trunk. Your personal assistant, always on time, meticulosa, professional. A figure who had been by his side from the company's most chaotic days, when everything hung by a thread. This time in his hands it brought a folder. His gesture was serene, but his eyes did not lie. There was something important to say. Approached with respect, making a slight inclination. Sorry for interrupting so early, but I needed to talk to you in person. James put down the pencil and frowned slightly. What Trunk is all about. She left the folder on the table, took a deep breath and said, is my letter of resignation. A thick silence took hold of the atmosphere. James, in disbelief, did not understand. Why now? Why someone so capable, so dedicated, so fundamental to the operation, company newspaper, would decide to leave just as things were going? Finally began to stabilize. With serene voice, continues, something has happened. There is some reason why the company no longer be a place for you. Trunk gently denied, with sincerity in their eyes. Not at all. Working here has been one of the best decisions in my life. But I have received a full scholarship to study in France. Business management is an opportunity one have dreamed of for a long time. And I think the time has come to grow up, to explore, to challenge myself. James nodded slowly. Your eyes, now no surprise, only showed understanding. You did it and I am very happy for you. Trank smiled a little relieved. I was afraid that I would not see him with good eyes. He let out a slight laughter, almost fraternal. Years ago I might have been frustrated. But now I know that there are farewells that are not an ending. They are a new beginning. I always knew you would go far. Trunk's eyes were damp, although his smile remained firm. Thank you for believing in me, for allowing me to grow up here, for teaching me so much. James looked at her with affection. No thanks to you. You have been by my side when everything seemed to be falling apart. When stress us. When the days were eternal and the successes were scarce. If the company survived this storm, it was also for you. Both remained silent. Accomplices. Then laughed. An unforgettable laughter, tinged with melancholy. For a while longer they talked. Not as chief and assistant, but as two people who had shared many battles. Talked in the early morning in front of screens, of poorly prepared coffees, of improvised boards, of uncomfortable silences that over time became understanding. Just when it seemed that the story would end with a quiet farewell, an unexpected secret came to light. And with it broke everything that James believed to be true. Paige, the loyal assistant who had been at James' side during the most difficult years, was about to leave the office. His farewell words had already been spoken. But before taking the last step towards the door, stopped. For a few seconds, said nothing. The atmosphere suddenly became dense. James, who slowly collected SUS papers on the desk, raised his eyes. Noticed something different in Trunk's eyes. A shadow, a weight. And then she dies. His voice lower and deeper than usual. James, before I leave, there is something I need to tell you. Something I can no longer keep. James frowned. Felt a strange pressure in his chest. I sensed that it would not be easy to hear. Tran lowered his head. His hands were. Everything that has happened to you and Deep. Accidents, financial pressure, media attacks. Was not a coincidence. James tensed up. His heart was pounding. Trank, what are you trying to tell me? She took a deep breath, as if it gathered all the value it had left. It was all my father's work. Absolute silence. Unbearable. James froze. The words of Tran resounded in his mind as a devastating echo. His eyes were lost in some empty mirror in the office. The pen he was holding off his fingers. Without him noticing, Dran fell to his knees. Could still begin to run down his face. Sorry, James. I know it is unforgivable, but I couldn't leave without you knowing the truth. James clenched his fists. Tried to resist. Why? Why would your father do that? What I could hate so much about us? To go to that extreme? Tran, between sobs, asked him. I always saw you as a threat. Never endured that someone younger, with fewer contacts, will achieve so much in such a short time. After losing an important contract, in front of your company, something changed in him. Began to press, moving threads, and I didn't know anything, until recently. James closed his eyes in pain. Disappointment, distrust. Everything was mixed in his chest. I couldn't believe it, Tran. The person in whom he had placed his full trust was to be the daughter of the man who almost destroyed her life. Why endangers the deep? Then saw how Trans, still on his knees, trembled. I am not looking for you to forgive my father. I just want you to know that I was never on his side. I found out late. I know, but I couldn't keep quiet. Not with you. James quickly approached and helped her up. Don't do that. Stand up. Trank sat it gently. His voice was low but firm. I don't know what to feel right now. I am angry, yes. But not with you. I am furious with the world that puts us in these positions, where loyalty and harm intersect so easily. Trunk nodded, cleaning each other's throats. I don't expect you to understand now, but I needed to be honest with you. Even if it means you hate me. James looked at her more serenely, more conscious. Forgive. Sometimes it is in our hands. But there are things that even human forgiveness does not, can delete. Justice must do its part. Trans. I hope you understand. She nodded in silence. I understand. I am not asking you to hide the truth alone. Not to confuse me with SUS decisions. I never meant to hurt you. James put a hand on his shoulder. A soft expression, almost fraternal. I know and I admire that you had the courage to tell the truth. That is also a form of redemption. There was a silence. No, the uncomfortable silence from the beginning was different. Was the kind of silence that only comes after saying something, continuous, but necessary. From the window, the sunlight kept coming in, as if nothing had happened. But for James and Trunk, something had changed forever. She stood up and with one last bow whispered, "Thank you for listening to me." And James with the voice serena continues, "I wish you luck, Trunk. And whatever happens, be sure to choose the right thing." After Trunk left the office, carrying with him a secret as heavy as necessary, James stood still, just trapped in a silence full of questions. The most insistent of all. "You should tell Deep the truth. And also Inspector Lee." Silence was easier, yes. But it was the right thing to do. James knew not to. The truth, as unfortunate as it was, deserved to be heard. And then he made a decision. Drove to the grave, where Deep was recovering. A secluded place, quiet, away from the noise and the memories that still hurt. Invited her out to a small nearby that they both used to visit, when life had not yet become so complicated. About the table, 2 cups of jasmine tea smoked softly. El aroma floral, mixed with the fresh air of the afternoon. James took Deep's hand gently. Looked at her tenderly, but also with firmness. "Deep. Today I need to tell you something. Something that will not be easy to hear, but I feel you have a right to know." Deepa felt. In his eyes reflected the concern. And then, James, with a slow voice, without hiding anything, told him everything that Tran confessed to him. Every detail, every wound he had tried to bury. The world seemed to stop. The only sound you could hear was the whisper of the wind between the leaves, and the choppy breath of Deep. When he finished listening, Dieb was left in shock. Did not cry, but his look said it all. There was a kind of deep emptiness in his eyes, as if the soul had paused to try to process so much truth. James shook his hand more tightly. "Sorry, Deep, for having to put you through this again. I just wanted to protect your peace." Deep in the mirror immediately. His mind went through everything he had experienced in seconds. Physical pain, fear of dying, the moments when James would fall apart, and Trunk's silent but constant presence. Always loyal, always present. Took a deep breath, very deep, then in a soft voice but firm said, "I have decided, forgive." James in surprise. Not because I thought she was not capable, but because he knew how much he had suffered. Deep raised its sights. This time no trace of doubt. "I do not understand because it does not hurt. To forgive is not to forget. But I don't want that pain to keep having power over me. Yes, Tran's father really regrets it. Maybe the best I can do is let go." Paused for a moment and added, "To forgive is not to give up, is to free oneself." James felt something inside him loosening up. As if I could finally breathe freely. Her eyes got wet. "You are amazing, Deep. Stronger and nobler than anyone could imagine." She smiled, a but light-filled smile. "I don't want to become someone I don't recognize. I was close to death once. I will not let resentment steal what I have left." And there they stayed. In silence. No, an uncomfortable one, but of those silences that say more than 1,000 words. 2 people who had chosen not to be overcome by pain until transforming it. Sometimes in life, the damage comes from where we least expect it. But forgiving is not weakness. Is Mexican. Is the most difficult step, but also the most liberating. As Diep did. If you can let it go, let it go. Forgiveness not only relieves the other, also frees you.
But it's not the universe. It's not the continues. It's not offensive. It's not offensive. Is one. Formady. Already chose what you can. Be left aside.